everybody. This is another episode of the Exodus Project. I am joined with my good friend, Rabbi Stuart Federow,
Hi.
author of Judaism and Christianity: A Contrast,
Yay.
available in English and
Ta-da.
Spanish, linked in the description.
Yay.
Grab your own copy.
Yep. Ta-da.
Today, as our usual fashion is, we're going to be addressing a comment.
Oh my God.
a not so intelligent comment. It was actually on one of our videos from not too long ago. But everyone just pay attention, because I really think it shows just how little people know, not only about Hebrew but about the Tanakh as a whole and history. So
Thank you.
we really need to study all these facets before you can formulate, a coherent opinion about things.
And I hesitate to correct ignorance because I don't want to make people look better because they speak more intelligently, because we have taught them the truth.
Right.
Because they will
Right.
always take the truth that we teach. And where do you hide a leaf? In a forest. Where do you hide an apple? On an apple tree.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll have their little bit of erroneous material in the midst of what is now improved and more accurate, and it'll make their errors look better, look more accurate, more true. But sometimes it's just so stupid, and there's no other word. And
I really think it'll,
I'm not
even if
saying
they
he's
don't see this,
stupid.
I think it'll benefit the viewers to have
I
the context not only of what he's trying to say, but give a little bit of historical context also. Yeah.
In all fairness, what we think he's trying to say.
That's true, because we might be wrong, but
no, we're not. But we think.
But all right, everyone, before we get started, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, give the Rabbi and I a big thumbs up. And as I said, check out the description for any book resource, including his books that you may need. And let me share this screen. Let me know
while you're sharing, I'm going to tell everybody to go to YouTube. And if you want to learn how to read Hebrew, not to translate, just to pronounce the consonants with the vowels, go to YouTube and search for Hebrew Jumpstart.
And to piggyback off that point, that link to that YouTube video will be linked in all videos starting now, forever, in the description. So you'll be able to just click the link and go right to Stuart Federow's Hebrew class.
And the best thing about it is it's on YouTube. All you have to do is rewind, watch it again.
Yep.
Okay, play the whole thing again as often as you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant.
Yep. Well,
but okay, Rabbi, here's the comment.
Okay, I don't understand. Whatever. All right. Eldan Sambat Yon, which really could be his name. Okay. Lion Hippoctites. Okay, look, I make spelling errors too. Everybody makes spelling errors too. I understand that, okay? But I at least try to go back and edit what I say to get rid of my typos and spelling errors and whatever. And I use speech to text, and sometimes it doesn't pick it up, and you need to go back and correct and edit your stuff. But I understand, so I shouldn't make fun of his Hippoctites. All right.
Lying Hippoctites.
Lying hypocrites. What Kohanim priestly line you people are talking about? Stop spreading made-up stories from the Talmud. Read the Torah and Tanakh. You will never find the name of Kohanim in the priestly line, nor any Israelite named Kohanim in the scriptures. Nasty, stupid Pharisees, after they exiled and killed off the Zadoks, they had to replace them with a fake and illegitimate foreign sweaty priests. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, first of all, what Kohanim priestly line you people are talking about? We're not talking about somebody whose last name is Kohen, Cohan, C-O-H-A-N-E or C-O-H-E-N. Okay. We're talking about the priests in the Bible, in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, who were explicitly given the priesthood by God.
Right.
Okay. And we're not talking about individuals whose last name is Kohen or
Right.
Cohen. Okay. All right. I whatever. All right. These are not stories made up from the Talmud. This is explicitly what it says in the Bible.
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
yourself a favor, Eldan Sambat Yon. Learn Hebrew.
And as we'll see in the next slide, that word Kohen actually runs in conjuncture with the person he's talking about, Zadok.
Right, but before we go to that, he
Mhm.
says, read the Torah and Tanakh. You will never find the name of Kohen Kohanim in the priestly line. Okay, first of all, Jews did not have last names like Federow, like Eisenhower, like
Right,
we didn't
right.
have last names until about 200, 300 years ago, give or take. Okay,
Right.
we were always called Stuart, the son of, and then father's name, Harry. So Stuart, the son of Harry. Okay. Stephen, what's your dad's name?
Stephen, the son of Stephen.
Fine. Okay. About 150, 250 years ago, give or take, I don't remember exactly how long ago, the European countries forced the Jews to take normal last names like everybody else, specifically gave them only a certain list. Each country had a certain list. And if you wanted, you had to have a last name, and you could only pick your new last name from lists made up by the government. And the names they gave were of things, okay, places, local geographical things like a mountain, okay, city names, county names, state names, whatever. And that's why you'll have people who have a last name of Berg. Berg means mountain.
Yeah, Goldberg.
Okay, Goldberg, mountain of gold, gold
Yeah.
mountain,
Yep.
mountain gold. Okay,
Exactly.
okay, but the word Kohen, as we will see over and over again in the Bible, in the Torah, is the word translated as priest.
Right.
So if a person was of the priestly line going all the way back to Aaron, the brother of Moses, okay, Aaron and Miriam and Moses were from the tribe of Levi. They were Levites, but God explicitly says about Aaron and Aaron's descendants that they will become the priests.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, which we'll talk about. Remind me about Egypt. There's a reason for that. Okay. But the Jews the Jews who were priests, it was their family tradition that they were descended from Aaron, the brother of Moses. They took as their last name Kohen or Cohen, okay, because that's what they were.
Right.
Okay. You've never heard someone whose last name literally is priest or priestly, or isn't there an actor whose last name is Priestley?
I'm not sure. I know there's
Can't think of
actually
his
a
name.
bodybuilder whose name is Lee Priest.
Case in point.
Yep.
Okay. The Jews who have the last name of Kohen, okay, or Cohen, okay, they have a family tradition that their lineage goes back all the way to Aaron, the brother of Moses.
Right.
Now that we're not saying that makes them priests, and probably, I don't know, pick a number, 80% of them probably are descendants from Aaron. There are genetic tests, that can determine that.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So, but we're not saying just because a person has the last name of Cohen that they're part of the priestly line. It's just their family forced to take a last name in the last 400 years, let's say. They chose that name to take as their last name because their family back then believed they were in fact descendants of Aaron, the brother of Moses.
Right.
Okay. nasty, stupid Pharisees, after they exiled and killed off the Zadoks, they had to replace them with a fake and illegitimate foreign sweaty priest. No, these were people who had this family tradition going back all the way. And who, excuse me, and who were the Zadokites? They were the Zadokites was the word that became known as Sadducees.
Right.
Zadok,
Mm-hmm.
Saduk, Sadducee. It develops over time into
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
name. Okay. Who were they? The Sadducees were the temple cult, the temple group, the people who controlled the temple in the time of Rome.
Yep.
So 2,000 years ago, who were appointed as priests by Rome,
Mm-hmm.
and to be the high priest, you didn't even have to be a descendant of Aaron, the brother of Moses. If you paid enough money,
You could buy your way in. Yeah.
you could buy your way in. So the Zadokites that you are saying were killed off and exiled by the Pharisees, that's not what happened. That's not history.
Right.
Read.
Right. In
Okay.
fact, it was basically, comparable in time with when the Herodians were instituted as the
Yes.
client kings. It was very
Right.
much, you had the Herodians on the throne, and the Sadducee faction priests
And
being
and and and
appointed into the service. Yeah.
and what happened to those priests? When the Zealots, you had the Sadokites, okay, you had the Sadducees, you had the Pharisees, you had the Essenes, and you had the Zealots. When the Jews started rebelling against Rome, Rome got real angry real quick and
Mm-hmm.
squashed them like bugs. Okay.
Yep.
However long it took, 4 years, 3, whatever it was, culminating in the destruction of the temple. The temple in Jerusalem, originally built by Solomon, destroyed by the Babylonians, rebuilt under Cyrus of Persia. Okay. Ezra and Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When they destroyed that temple, the priests of the temple, who were under the thumb of Rome and in cahoots with Rome, lost their power.
Yeah.
They just walked away. They weren't
Right.
exiled. They weren't killed off. They just became irrelevant. And I
Mm-hmm.
got news for you. The zealots became irrelevant because they weren't all killed off. Most probably lost their lives in the war against Rome. Okay. But the ones who got away as zealots, they became irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Essenes were the nutcase,
Yeah.
okay, who
Yep.
took themselves off into the wilderness, okay, who looking back at what they left made fun of the high priest and said, we've got the priest, the righteous priest,
Mm-hmm.
the priest who was a Sadducee, the priest back in Jerusalem is a fake and whatever, okay, but you had to convert to become a member, and they were celibate. They
Right.
died out.
Yep.
They weren't exiled and killed off like you're claiming they did to the Sadducees. Like the Sadducees, like the Zealots, the only ones left when all the dust settled, okay, were the Pharisees, who became Rabbinic Judaism. They're the ancestry, so to speak, of Rabbinic Judaism, was Pharisaic Judaism, which
Exactly.
I believe that God controls the world. And clearly, if the Pharisees were the last ones left standing when the dust settled, okay, after the Roman war,
Right. There was a
then
reason.
God's reason.
Yep.
So I don't know where you're getting anything of this, Eldan Sambat Yon.
Well, another
Okay.
important point to make is that, we have a tzadok in the Tanakh, but
Yes.
it's not the tzadok that is
It,
related to the Sadducees.
they claim, and I think it goes back to wait a minute, what's his name? Avot de Rabbi Natan. Okay, which is a collection of rabbinic commentaries, midrash, 2,000 years. I don't remember the dating of it. Um, let's see. Uh, Dating of it is probably around 700 to 900 when they were all assembled into book form. But the traditions go back further than that. So in the Avot of Rabbi Natan, chapter 5, paragraph 2, the Sadducees began at the same time as the Boethusians, okay, and their founder, who was named Zadok, is not the Zadok of the Torah, okay, but is actually a student of Antigonus of Soho during the 2nd century BCE. So, according to as long ago as this collection of Midrash state that the Sadducees didn't go back to Zadok the priest, the priestly line, but rather was a student of Antigonus of Soho in the 2nd century BCE. So we're talking 2,200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Which even that's what, around 500 years away from David when Zadok lived?
More
Roughly?
More than that. David is about 900. So
Okay.
if we're talking 2nd century BCE, that's 700 years.
700 years.
Right. Yep. Okay. So yeah, Zadok was the priest, I believe, during King David's reign.
Okay.
So David was 900, give or take.
Right.
900 or 1,000? Solomon is 900, so David is, let's say, 1,000, give or take. So 700 or 800 years, 700 or 800 years after David. All right. So meanwhile, he says in his quote, you know, how can the Kohanes? Well, take a look for yourself. Read the Hebrew.
Right.
First Chronicles chapter 1 verse 16. I'm sorry. Start over. First Chronicles chapter 16 verse 39. First Chronicles 16 verse 39. And Zadok the priest and his brothers the priests before the tabernacle of the Lord in the high place that was at Gibeon. Okay, Givon. And when it says Zadok the priest, what word does it use for priest in the Hebrew?
HaKohen.
HaKohen.
Mm-hmm.
The Kohen, translated in English as the priest. So even talking about the Zadok you think is the ancestry of the Sadducees, it's using the word Kohen.
Right.
Unbelievable. You know, in order to be a priest, you have to be from the line of the priests, inherited through your father, your father's father, your father's father's father, your father's 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 father, going all the way back to Moses's brother, Aaron, who was explicitly given the priesthood. Why was he given the priesthood? Why did God pick somebody and then say that that person's descendants from now on through eternity will be the priests, the Kohanes, the Kohanim, okay, of the Jewish people? We're coming up with Passover, okay? Every plague of the 10 plagues that were perpetrated in Egypt were not against the Egyptians. They were against the gods of the Egyptians. The 10th plague in the description in the book of Exodus goes out of its way to say, and the 10th plague, killing the firstborn, went all the way up to the throne of the Pharaoh. Why? Because they thought Pharaoh was God.
Yep.
They thought Pharaoh was a god. They worshiped the Pharaoh as a god. Imagine that. Thinking that a human being and God can be one and the same. Wow. Where have we heard that before?
Right.
So what happens is that in one fell swoop, by having the death of the firstborn, God is effectively killing the next God.
Mm-hmm.
But what did the firstborn become?
The priests.
The priests of the next God. So by killing the firstborn, God is killing off the priests of the next God, who is the next Pharaoh. So the killing the firstborn priests, the firstborn of the people who are the priests, and the firstborn of Pharaoh, who was the next God.
Right.
So if God says, I'm not going to ask you to give up your firstborn, okay, God explicitly says you will redeem the firstborn, pidyon haben.
Yep.
Okay, you will redeem the firstborn, but I'm going to give the priesthood to Moses's brother Aaron and all of Aaron's descendants throughout eternity.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be a priest, You have to be a descendant of Aaron, the brother of Moses. It's that simple.
Yep.
Zadok eventually became the line, the lineage through which the priests went.
Right.
Zadok, before Zadok, you had Pinchas. What is that in English? Phineas, something like that.
Phineas. Right.
Okay, and it goes back to Aaron, but eventually it came down to Zadok, and the Zadokite priesthood. Okay, but Zadok the priest is Sadok HaKohen.
Yep.
So,
and just to show, in case someone didn't believe how far apart the dating is, it's showing here contextually that Zadok the priest was during the time of the Mishkan, the tabernacle.
right.
So how is that any? That's nowhere near the Second Temple.
Oh no!
Right.
By what'd you say? 800 years?
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
900 years? 1,000 years? Now go the other direction. Okay, instead of 7 or 8, say 600 years. Not anywhere near close.
Right.
Okay, but
Right.
but according to sources, okay, the Zadok of First Chronicles 16:39 isn't the same Zadok from which they got the name Sadducees.
Right. Right. Yeah, by that logic, then Jesus of the New Testament and Joshua could be the same person, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's nonsense. People
Right.
just need to understand when they're
Oh, but
studying the
wait,
Bible, you need historical context.
wait a minute, Steve. You didn't know that the husband of Mary, Joseph, was the Joseph who served under Pharaoh in Egypt?
Well, it does say he went down to Egypt.
but only in one
Only in
gospel.
one gospel, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So, all right, what are we doing next?
Exodus 40.
Right. Okay. Uh, this is speaking Exodus. Obviously, it's speaking about whom? The descendants of Moses' brother Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
And it says of him, okay, and you shall anoint them as you did anoint their father, which was Aaron, the brother of Moses, that they may minister to me in the priest's office, for their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. So the first place that Steve over showed the blue, it says v'kahanu, from the word kohen, priest.
Yep.
Okay, in the priest's office. Okay, and the second line, lichunat olam lidorotam. Okay, everlasting priesthood throughout their generations.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that in referring to Moses' brother Aaron, it's saying that Aaron and all of Aaron's descendants become the priests, and the word it uses for priests, once again, is Kohen.
Right.
Next slide.
Right. Yeah, nothing to do with the last name. I don't know. We can't really beat that over the head enough.
No, because they chose last names because they had to have a last name. And they chose the name Kohen because it was their family's tradition. They were descendants of Aaron, the brother of Moses.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you look at someone's, and even in modern times, if you were to look at their Hebrew name, it's such and such, son of such and such.
Right, that's right.
Goldblatt,
Right.
Goldberg, right?
Stuart, the son of Harry, Shimon ben Tzvi.
Right.
Tzvi was my father's Hebrew name.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know. Are you a fan of the Three Stooges?
Certainly.
Curly's tombstone.
Yes, I saw
his Hebrew name. It's beautiful. I think his name was Yehuda. I think.
I have it somewhere in my cell phone. It's online.
Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
if anyone doesn't believe us, it doesn't say, like, it's not written out in Hebrew Curly Howard or Jerome Howard. It's Yehuda. I think his dad's name was maybe Shmuel, so I think it's Yehuda ben Shmuel or something like that.
I'd have to look.
But just goes to show that it's not like they translittered Howard or Horowitz onto his tombstone in Hebrew. It's Judah, son of whatever his dad's name was.
Yeah.
Love the Three Stooges, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, 2 Samuel 7. This is shifting gears because this is a good way to segue into how someone can't be from the line of Aaron, a Kohen, and a king at the same time, as Christianity would purport for Jesus. So I think this is a good opportunity to shift gears into that direction.
What did you say? Howard, right?
Yeah.
No, can't find it quick. Forget it. All right. Now, you know, there are Christians who will say that Jesus was both a priest and a king. Okay. Tell me what government he had complete sovereignty over.
Hmm.
Okay. Be that as it may. Okay. You have, in order to be a priest, you have to be a direct bloodline descendant through your father's 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 fathers, going all the way back to Aaron, the brother of Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And you are from the tribe of Levi, a subset of the tribe of Levi. They're Levites. You can't be a descendant of two different people at the same time, two brothers who lived at the same time. Because remember, when we're talking tribes, that's what we're talking about, the sons of Jacob.
Right. Yeah.
Each son developed into its own tribe. So can I be the son of my uncle at the same time I'm the son of my father? That's what they're saying. So in 2 Samuel chapter 7, okay, the prophet Nathan is speaking to King David, and he says, and when your days are fulfilled, when David's days are fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, who shall proceed out of your body, and I will establish his kingdom. Why is this significant? On two levels. First of all, it says, I will set up your seed after you, who will proceed out of your body. That means you can't be adopted into a royal line.
Right.
Okay. Second thing it says is that it's talking explicitly to David. In the same way that Aaron, the brother of Moses, was designated, all his descendants will be the priests. Okay. King David was chosen that only his descendants will be the rulers, the kings, the royalty of Israel, of the people of Israel, of the Jewish
Right.
people.
Yep.
So doubly, this verse, 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12, becomes significant. It shows you cannot be adopted into the royal line. And it says that you have to be a direct descendant from King David through your biological human father.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Side
Next.
note, in Isaiah 7, where they would purport the virgin birth prophecy,
Yeah.
that's being addressed to Ahaz, who wasn't so great of a guy. And
No. No.
Isaiah actually refers to him as House of David.
Right. Because he had to be a part of the house of David to be
Right.
the king.
Right.
Ahaz. Yes, go ahead.
Through the
Now,
fathers.
please understand that the Bible in the book of Numbers, chapter 1, two places, verse 2 and verse 18, explicitly says that lineage is through the fathers.
Yeah.
People get confused. They say that I thought lineage was through the mother. No, citizenship rights you inherit through the mother,
Mm-hmm.
but all other inheritances come through the father, like tribal affiliation. How do we know? Because it tells us in Numbers chapter 1. Okay, Numbers
Before
chapter
you
1.
read, if I can just say something I heard the other day that I thought was really
Please
cool.
go right ahead.
Um, like you need a Jewish mother to be born Jewish, right?
That's the citizenship rights you
Right.
inherit through your mother.
But something very cool is when a baby girl is born, she is born with all the eggs she'll ever have. So she's born with every potential Jew already inside her when she is born. I thought that was really, really cool when I heard that. They don't necessarily like come about later. She's born with all her eggs when she's born. Isn't that kind of incredible? So like if she's Jewish and then she has children, they're already part of her when she herself is born.
And that's true. And you always know who the mother is, even if you don't know who the father is.
Right.
And
Right.
people will say, oh, wait, biblical times, citizenship Jewishness was through the father. Really? When Ezra and Nehemiah came back to the land of Israel and the Jews that came with them from exile, what did Ezra and Nehemiah tell them about their non-Jewish wives?
Get rid of
Divorce
them.
them,
Yep.
divorce them and send them away with
The
their
children.
children.
Yep.
Wait a minute. If the children have to leave too, it's because they weren't considered Jews because their mothers weren't Jewish.
Right.
Biblical. Okay, so Numbers chapter 1, verses 2 and verse 18 teach us that lineage, that's inheritance rights, lineage, inheritance rights of what tribe you're a part of comes through the father. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. And then in verse 18, it repeats this. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So the Bible explicitly says it's count them by the house of their fathers.
Yeah.
I don't think it can get clearer than that.
When the Messianic apologists would try to say about the daughters of Zelophehad,
Yes.
It makes explicitly clear that in order for them to inherit, this is, Moshe's final ruling, is in order for them to inherit, they had to marry men from their same tribe.
Because otherwise what they inherited would leave the tribe, which was a loss to the tribe.
Exactly.
By the way, that was God's verdict.
God's verdict.
Remember,
relayed through Moshe. Right.
The daughters of Tzlofchad felt that it was unfair that they were not allowed to inherit simply because they were women. They go to Moses and Moses says, you know something? You got a point. Let's go see what God says.
Right. Yeah.
Let's go see what God says. So they go to God and God says, you have a point. You can inherit, but just like you said, Steve, what you inherit has to stay within the tribe. You have to marry within the tribe so what you inherit stays within the tribe. Because otherwise the tribe could become penniless. They would own nothing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So through the fathers, and that's how so if a person is a descendant of David, they can rule on the throne of David because you can be royalty is traced through the fathers back to King David, by the way, through King Solomon too. Okay.
Right.
But you can't be a descendant of Levi, who became the priest through the brother of Moses, Aaron. At the same time, you're a descendant of Judah, which is the tribe that David was from.
Right.
So they'll say, oh, Jesus was a king and a priest. No, he wasn't. All right, go ahead. All right. By the way, people kind of forget this. In Judaism, we trace lineage through the father. We just showed you that. Okay. Matthew and Luke both knew that.
Yeah, they did the same thing. Right.
Of course, they knew that.
Yep.
Matthew, it's so-and-so the father of so-and-so the father of so-and-so, and it goes on from there. Luke was so-and-so the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, and it goes on from there. Okay. Both of them mention women. They only mention women who are famous. But the lineage didn't go through the women, it went through their husbands.
Yeah.
They're only mentioned because they're famous.
Right.
Okay. And when you look at Matthew and look at Luke, they both say that Joseph was not the father of Jesus. In alliance, okay, with the Christian concept that Jesus's father was God through the Holy Spirit, which means that Jesus cannot trace his lineage back through his human father, not to King David. Oh, and by the way, not to Levi either.
Right.
So Matthew words it this way. You would expect it to say, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the father of Jesus, who was called Christ. It doesn't say that. What it says is, and so, the father of so, the father of Jacob, and Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and of Mary of whom Jesus was born, who was called Christ. So the way it's worded displaces Joseph as being the father of Jesus. Luke does the same thing. And then, boy, do they try to play with this. It says, and Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli, which was the son of, goes on from there. So it's saying they suppose that he was the son of Joseph, but he really wasn't.
Right.
Well,
so they render their own genealogies pointless.
Exactly, because if this is Joseph and Joseph didn't have sex with Mary to make Jesus, then Joseph's lineage becomes irrelevant.
Yep.
So Jesus cannot trace his lineage back to King David. He cannot trace his lineage back to King Solomon. Okay. And he also can't trace his lineage back to Levi, okay, or through Aaron, the brother of Moses,
right,
to show that he was a priest. He's not a priest. He's not royalty. He's nothing.
Yeah, he's dead.
That too, yeah. Okay. All right. Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 and verse 10 both indicate that the lineage has to be through David to be king and rule over Judah. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. So who is Jesse?
Father of David.
If Jesse is the father of David, then the stem of Jesse is King David. And the rod out of the stem means a descendant of King David.
Yep.
And that's 11:1. 11:10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse. So now it's talking about a descendant of Jesse, the father of David. So it's a descendant of David, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And by the way, rest, peace, how do you say peace in Hebrew?
Shalom.
How would you say his rest, and his rest shall be glorious? Shalomo.
Shalomo.
Solomon.
Yep.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verses 5. Behold, the days come, saith the Eternal, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice on the earth. Take a look at Ezekiel 34, 37, Jeremiah 30, 33, Hosea 3, and you'll see repeatedly that in order to be a ruler of the people of Israel, a king, you have to be a direct bloodline descendant from King David.
Yep.
And earlier we read how it had to be a bloodline descendant of King David. You couldn't be adopted in. People will say,
from his body. Yep.
They'll say, oh, Joseph adopted him as his. No, sorry, that doesn't work. And we already showed why.
Right.
Okay. No adoption, and only through Solomon. Okay, so we already read this. And when your days, this is the prophet Nathan speaking to King David. And when your days are fulfilled and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your body. And I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name. Who built God's house?
Solomon.
Clearly referring to Solomon. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. What's that referring to? King Saul was the first king over Israel.
Yep.
But Saul really badly messed up. And so God replaced Saul with David.
Yep.
And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all these visions, so did Nathan, that's the prophet Nathan, speak to David. Okay. First Chronicles chapter 22, verses 9 through 10 says the same thing. It's King David descendant explicitly and only through King Solomon. Behold, a son shall be born to you who shall be a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies round about, for his name shall be Shalomo, his peace, Solomon. And I will give peace and quietness unto Israel in his days. He shall build a house for my name. He shall be my son, and I will be his father, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever.
Well, wait, if Solomon is the son of God, why does a later son of God have to be divine?
And why, if that would mean that if you take this literally, then Jesus was the only son of God.
Guess
So,
not.
yeah, no, clearly this is meant to be, he will be like a father to him. He will be like a son to him. So, all right. But hey, if they want to take it literally, that means there's more than one son of God. He wasn't the only begotten.
Yeah, I think we're all sons of God, right? We're all the
I,
children of God. So,
absolutely. Bible explicitly says that.
yeah.
Do we not all have one father? Amos, I think. Okay. All right. Again, Matthew and Luke don't have the right lineage.
Right.
Okay. Matthew has David's son Solomon in the lineage of Joseph, who wasn't even the father of Jesus. But Luke has a brother, actually a half brother of King Solomon instead of Solomon. Oops. If you got to be through Solomon, and according to Luke, it's Nathan, the half brother of Solomon. Okay, different mother, same father, same David. Then it's not through Solomon. If it's not through Solomon, according to Luke, he can't be the Messiah. He can't be the king over Israel.
Right.
Matthew 1, 6-7. And Jesse begat David the king, and David the king begat Solomon of her that had been the wife of Urias. And Solomon begat Rehoboam, and Rehoboam begat Aviah, and Aviah begat Asa. But Luke has the son of Nathan, the son of David, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz. So
They forgot Jesse.
one, they forgot Jesse. Oh, you want to say Obed is another name for Jesse? Fine. The problem is that by naming Nathan the half brother of Solomon instead of not Solomon, then according to Luke's genealogy, he can't be the king. All right. Okay. Also, another error made by the lineage found in Matthew and in Luke. Okay. There's a cursed line. All right. In First Chronicles 3, we see the lineage. So and so, the father of so and so, the father of so and so. So first you start out with Josiah, okay, and one of his sons was Jehoiakim, the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the sons of Jehoiakim, Jeconiah, and then you have the sons of Jeconiah, which includes Shealtiel. So it's Josiah to Jehoiakim, Jehoiakim to Jeconiah, and Jeconiah to Shealtiel. But what does it say in Jeremiah regarding Jehoiakim? Jeremiah 22, verse 18. Therefore, thus says the Eternal concerning Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, they shall not lament for him, saying, oh, my brother, or oh, sister. They shall not lament for him, saying, oh, God, or oh, his glory. Okay, don't lament for him because he's being displaced.
Right.
And then later in Jeremiah, you have the following.
Well, before I go to the next slide, I just want to mention
Okay. Yes.
when that line is, because we're going to get into the curse of the line, but if people don't believe us on this, Zedekiah actually succeeded. The kingship was placed on Zedekiah after it was displaced from, it didn't last long, obviously, but
right.
that's his brother. That's not his son. So,
Right. Okay, which, if Charles abdicates the throne, which he's obviously not going to because he's going to be crowned in a few months. Okay, but if he abdicates, it goes to Andrew, his brother. No, it goes to
no.
his son. It goes
Right.
to his son. Right. All right. Next one. Okay, Jeremiah 22, a little later in the same chapter. As I live, saith the Eternal, though Coniah the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet upon my right hand, yet would I pluck you from it. In other words, I don't care how great Jeconiah is, okay, they've lost the kingship. Jehoiakim, Jeconiah, and Shealtiel and all their descendants can no longer be king. And here's where you get the actual curse. Jeremiah 22:30, and speaking of Jehoiakim, some people say he's speaking of Jeconiah, but it's the same thing. Thus says the Eternal, write you this man as childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper sitting upon the throne of David and ruling anymore in Judah. But we know the real Messiah will be on the throne of David and rule over Judah.
Right.
Actually, rule over the world. So any descendant of Jehoiakim or Jeconiah, which would include Shealtiel, any descendant of those three cannot sit on the throne of David and rule Judah, which the real Messiah will do. Look at Matthew chapter 1, verse 11. Josiah, the father of Jeconiah and his brothers, at the time of the deportation to Babylon, and after the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, and Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel. Okay, they'll say, wait a minute, Shealtiel, but Shealtiel we just said is part of the cursed line.
Right.
Christians will say, wait, but it says Zerubbabel, father of Zerubbabel, Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was king.
Was he?
Zerubbabel, yeah, that's the point. Was he? Really? No, Zerubbabel was never the sovereign ruler of Judah. He is repeatedly called, take a look at Hosea, the book, throughout the book of, he's called the governor. That means it is a tributary. They had to pay tribute.
Oh, you meant Haggai. Haggai.
What did I say?
Hosea.
Yeah, sorry, that was a mistake. Haggai. Okay, so Luke chapter 3, verse 27. Again, we find Shealtiel in the line in Luke of Joseph, the son of Johanan, the son of Risa, the son of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, the son of Neri. Okay, they'll say, oh, but Zerubbabel, he was king. No, he wasn't king. Haggai 1:1, Haggai 1:14, Haggai chapter 2, verse 2, Haggai chapter 2, verse 21, they all say the same thing. In the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the first day of the month, came the words of the Eternal by Haggai the prophet to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah.
Right.
Zerubbabel as governor, not king, means that he did not have absolute sovereignty. He was not king. He was only the governor. So they'll say, so guess what? It means the curse stands.
Yep.
At least according to the Bible.
Right. And we're not saying that Zerubbabel wasn't righteous, but you can be righteous and still not be able to sit on the throne as king. You know? So
right.
It's two completely exclusive points.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
But if we can just backtrack real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where was that at?
I'm not sure where you're
looking. Yeah, here. Because you had said if you want to say Obed is another name for Jesse. Well, that can't be, because Obed is Jesse's dad, and Boaz is Jesse's grandfather. So they just totally omitted David's father out of Luke's genealogy.
Right.
And Luke says that his gospel is he studied a lot, got all the best information from all the most reliable sources. So what was he looking at when he wrote his genealogy?
Obviously an error.
Obviously.
And that's in Luke 1:1. I think that's at the very, very beginning of Luke. Luke says, I'm only telling you what I've heard and I believe them.
Yeah. He says, I got the best information from reliable sources.
And I trust the sources, but he's not an eyewitness.
Right. This source ain't too good then.
The end of the book of John says the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I just wanted to point out that that's not a good source, because I mean the prophecies are a root from the stem from the root of Jesse. It seems Jesse is pretty important, the father of David, you know?
Right.
And you just totally omit him in the genealogy. But that's neither here nor there. It's just something to chew on, people, to see how funny this stuff really is when you dig into it, you know?
Yep.
What were they? I heard a point made recently that it's not so much the cohesive coherence, but if the story sounds good. I mean, how many people are really reading? How many Christians do you know that are actually reading the genealogy in the Gospels? Probably very few. They're reading they're reading the prodigal son, and they're reading the parables.
They're reading the Christmas stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we've gone over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But come on, unless you're a genealogist, are genealogies and lineages really that interesting anyway?
Right.
Yeah.
But just a side point, it's things that are very easily glanced over, but when you actually dig into them, there's some problems.
Right. And how convenient it is. I think it's Matthew who says 14 generations from here to here and 14 generations from here to here. The only way they get 14 each time is by leaving some of the generations out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another issue.
Yep.
But they say that Jesus can be king and priest at the same time. No, he can't.
Yeah, we've pretty well demonstrated that's not the case.
Yeah. Yep.
And much less at the same time, he can't be either regardless.
Right.
He can't be either.
Right.
But all right, everybody. Rabbi, any closing remarks?
No, I think we covered it all. I hope we did.
For sure. But yeah, like we mentioned in the beginning, be sure to check out the description for his books and also the Hebrew Jumpstart link.
Thank you.
But yeah, this was another episode of the Exodus Project. I'm your host, Steve Eisenhower, Rabbi Stuart Federow, and we'll catch you next time, guys.